Hey there, welcome back to The Empowered Edge, the podcast where we cut through the noise, ditch the overwhelm, and unlock your best self through optimal health, a resilient mindset, and habits that actually last. I'm your host, Jenna Hostetler, registered dietitian, certified neurocoach, and proud obsessor of all things psychology and leadership. Every week, you'll get practical, science-backed strategies that give you the clarity and confidence to take action, break through barriers, and most importantly, own your health, own your life, and live with purpose. Hey guys, today is part 2 of our stress series with stress expert Alexa Hanshaw. If you missed last week's episode, definitely check that out after this. Today, Alexa is going to share practical, science-backed strategies to lower stress and help you perform at your best. Stress is tricky. Everyone has different threshold, and when we're constantly busy and distracted, we often don't realize that we're living in a non-stop state of stress, which can quietly wreak havoc on our health. If you've ever felt like stress is running your life, you're not alone. But here's the good news. You have more control than you think, and Alexa is going to show you how. Let's dive in. So you do a lot of other stuff in your practice. You don't just work on stress. You do, a lot with exercise and a whole bunch of other, calming, relaxing things. So what I don't know, what else do you help your clients with that also then, has a side effect of less stress?
Yeah, so I love this question. And I think it's super important because I do really take a holistic approach with my clients. And yes, stress always seems to be usually an after effect. They're usually coming to me because they want to lose 10 pounds, or they want to start an exercise routine, or they want to be more mindful and don't really know how to incorporate that. And so really being able to look at, I'm a group fitness instructor, so I have a background in fitness and supporting people in building a mobility and a movement routine. And, I do have some background. I am not a nutritionist, but I do have some functional nutrition training around, being able to support people with what does a healthy plate look like and things like that. And so really getting this holistic view of what health can look like is really where I and my clients can thrive together, because it's giving them support in several different areas across our journey, whether that's typically a program that I do with my clients is going to be around 6 months. And so across that arc, we can really focus on different areas of their health. And like you said, all of that in the end is going to lower their stress because they're focusing on their health. And when they can focus on their health, inherently, their stress is slowly going to start to dissipate because they're moving their body more. So they're getting rid of some of the stress, or they're eating more nutrient-rich foods, which when you fuel better, then your body's inflammation automatically comes down. I mean, all of this. So all of those things for sure.
What are some of the really cool or the biggest changes that you've seen in some of your clients?
Yeah, I had one client, and she originally came to me on a weight loss journey. But the biggest shift that I saw in her was when we were working on, she was consuming a lot of soda, a lot of tea, sweet teas. So really consuming a lot of sugar unknowingly. And, helping her make the connection to look at a food label and recognize the amount of sugar that she's consuming and how that's not only affecting her weight, but was also affecting her mood, was also affecting her job, because she was having that big, high when she consumed all that sugar, and then the deep crash that came with it. So, in the end, she ended up losing about 30 pounds, which was great. And really only the major change being the sugar that she was looking at. But really, it was more of a mindset shift for her, and being able to see what she could control and what she couldn't control. Whereas before, weight loss seemed uncontrollable to her. She couldn't lose the weight. She couldn't do it. And seeing that shift in her mindset of, this really is in my control, and I can make small, and I'll put easy in parentheses because, limiting your sugar is not easy in today's world. But, limiting her sugar and just seeing the shift that it made for her as well as for her husband, because she, gave that information to him as well, was just, really amazing. And, still connect with her every so often. And, every time she's like, Alexa's still checking still checking those labels, and, limiting, when I'm doing my soda and all of that, and, feeling great, doing great. And yeah, so that was a really positive, kind of started off with weight loss, but, ended up being so much more than that.
Sure. So it was interesting that you said she didn't realize or didn't see how much control she actually had. And I feel like that's a huge hang up for a lot of people with their health, is that, it's, I don't have time, or we're going out to eat, or they're always seeing the situation as, I can't do anything about it. But is that something that you really work on with some of your people, is seeing all of the opportunity for what you really can't control?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a big focus in my practice is behavioral change. And that's really the crux of being a health coach, at least how I define my scope and how the national board kind of defines their scope as a health coach, and helping people to see, again, the little shifts they can make that can then compound and have major results in the end, and helping them make kind of that mental connection and helping them get to the aha moment, not telling them the aha moment, because it means so much more when they get to it on their own through kind of questions and self-inquiry, and sometimes they use assessments or just different tactics that you can work on with clients. And once they start to see, oh wow, I can really do this, walking for 10 minutes, once a week, is that really going to make a change? And it's like, well, try it and see. And that one time turns into 3 times. And then that, 10 minutes turns into 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden you're at the recommended amount of movement or exercise for a week. And, it's just all about, like you said, just those little shifts and those little mindset updates that we can support our clients and helping them make those behavioral changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And for sure, I mean, I feel like people underestimate what those little changes really can do and how much it really does add up. Because you think about it on the other spectrum, is one cookie ever just one cookie? Like, it's never, everything compounds, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
Or,
Absolutely.
better or desirable, or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
So for people who, either really, really feel like, they just can't manage their stress at this point, or it's something that they don't want to think about, or, maybe they're not even recognizing that they are in a stressful state. What are some of your tips that are just overall good wellness practices that, may also help with stress reduction?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, we mentioned this at a high level, but definitely prioritizing sleep is going to be super important, and not just even the amount of time, but also the quality of sleep. And really ensuring that you're getting into the different stages of sleep. And I know that's hard to do. You can't be like, okay, get into REM cycle now. But by kind of creating a space where you can get into restful sleep is kind of how you can support yourself in that quality versus just quantity. Moving your body, again, that helps the one of the physiological responses of stress is sending your blood to your extremities. And so using that energy that's being pushed out to your arms and your legs by moving your body and by exercising is going to help, really flush out some of that adrenaline, some of that cortisol, some of those hormones that are released as part of that stress response. And then one that, not everyone talks about is really breath work. And that can sound a little bit woo woo. And I don't want to come off as woo woo when I say breath work. What I mean by breath work is when a trigger comes about, if you're in a safe space, take 1 minute to just tap into your breath. And that can look like, if you're in an office, stepping into the bathroom and closing your eyes, put your hands on your heart and just connect with your breath. Feel your breath. You don't have to change it. You don't have to slow down the breath. It will inherently slow down when you start to connect with it. And you are able to physically shift your body from a more stressful state into a less stressful state by focusing on your breath, by slowing your breath down. And that is something that's really accessible to everyone. Everyone has access to their breath at any point in time. And so being able to connect and take a moment to step out of the stress trigger, or if you don't have it during, maybe just after, is really something I like to have my clients start to incorporate. Again, because it is just accessible to everyone. Movement is not always accessible, unfortunately. Sleep, if you have a newborn or something like that, maybe not the most accessible at the moment. You don't have the most control over it, but you can always control your breath. And you can always control how you nourish yourself. And nourishing yourself looks like how you can breathe, what you're putting into your body, what you're putting on your body. Those are two things that we can control and we have control over.
Yeah, you can always control the way you breathe. I really like that. And even that you said, it's not so much as, doing this specific technique or spending all its time. It's just like taking a pause and becoming aware.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
I've definitely noticed, interesting side note, like these last couple weeks, like I'm so distracted and so busy, like I realize that I'm breathing super duper shallow. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I keep like feeling out of breath. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel good. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I have to mentally remember to actually breathe, which is
Mm-hmm.
seems so weird.
Yes, and full breath, because I think what you're probably noticing is you're probably breathing in your chest, or you're breathing quickly, and that's just because you're busy, you're here. But again, if you take the minute to connect to your breath, you notice, okay, I'm breathing in my chest. Okay, how does it feel if I breathe a little bit deeper? Maybe start from my stomach and then let the breath come all the way up, and then release the breath all the way down. Again, you're inherently slowing your entire body down by doing that.
Yeah. So what is your final tips, tidbits, thoughts for our viewers today?
Yes, absolutely. So, I again really come at this as a holistic approach to, in this instance in particular, if we're talking about, gut health, it is going to be super important, obviously, what you eat. But you do also want to look at everything else that, can go into your health or can be an input into what might be causing you some gut discomfort. And, stress is definitely something that might be a key culprit of that. And we talked through so many great things that can support your stress management, whether that's, adding in some movement into your day, whether that's prioritizing your sleep, tapping into your breath, especially in those acute moments of stress, and nourishing your body from the inside out, really prioritizing whole unprocessed foods, and how you can really best take care of yourself. And that might look a little bit different for each and every person, which is okay. Not everyone's journey has to be the same, but figuring out what works best for you. And that might be through a little bit of, trial and, trying again. I don't want to say trial and error because it's not an error if you learn from it, but, just figuring out what's going to work best for your body and then being able to build on that. It's not going to be, one day you figure everything out and then you're good for the rest of your life. It's going to be a continuous journey.
Stress is like a domino. It knocks everything down with it. Your digestion, immune system, weight, sleep, and so much more. But the best part is you can stop the chain reaction. When you focus on your health, your stress naturally dissipates. That means eating real anti-inflammatory foods, moving daily, and using your breath as a tool, not just for survival but for control, can significantly lessen the impact stress has on your health. You might not be able to eliminate stress completely, but you can make sure it doesn't take over your life. And if you're ready to take control from the inside out, grab the Gut Brain Upgrade Blueprint in the show notes. It is your simple science-backed framework to strengthen your gut, sharpen your mind, and feel your best. And remember, consistency is key. So take action, stay empowered, and I'll see you next week. Okay, now before you pop off, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the one episode that could change your life. And give us a 5-star review if you learned something new today. If you want to check out all the awesome free guides, templates, and resources I've given away on this podcast, go to theneurodietitian.com/resources. You can grab anything you want, but only if you'll do it. Because information without implementation is worthless. And here at the Empowered Edge, we're action takers, not excuse makers.